The Titan ship loomed over the launch pad, a magnificent structure of gleaming metal and advanced technology, built to carry humanity into the stars. The day of its launch had finally arrived, and excitement buzzed in the air as crowds gathered to witness the historic moment. Scientists, engineers, and dignitaries stood shoulder to shoulder under a brilliant blue sky, eager to see the culmination of years of hard work. Inside the command center, the crew prepared for liftoff, led by Captain Alina Reyes, a seasoned astronaut known for her courage and sharp instincts. She stood before her team of specialists, each one a master of their craft, as they conducted final checks on the ship's systems, their faces illuminated by the glow of monitors displaying vital data and schematics. Alina looked out at the crowd through the large viewing window and felt a surge of pride. This was not just a mission for the crew, it was a mission for all of humanity, a chance to reach beyond their home world and make contact with the unknown. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation as the countdown began. 10, 9, 8, the numbers echoed through the command center, each second amplifying the tension as Alina felt her heart race. She remembered the countless hours spent training for this moment, the late nights poring over simulations and strategizing every possible scenario. Now it was time to put that training to the test. 3, 2, 1, ignition. The roar of the engines ignited the Titan ship, thrusting it upward into the sky, flames erupting from the boosters as the massive vessel ascended through the atmosphere. The ground below shrank into a distant memory. The crowd erupted in cheers, witnessing history unfold before their eyes. As the Titan pierced the clouds, Alina and her crew celebrated their initial success. Cheers and laughter filled the control room, but soon the atmosphere shifted as they reached the edge of Earth's orbit, and the vastness of space opened up before them. The ship's sensors activated and began scanning the surrounding area. Data flooded in on the displays, revealing a tapestry of stars and planets stretching infinitely in every direction. It was breathtaking, but also overwhelming. Alina felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation as they ventured into the unknown. Suddenly, an alert blared through the control room. A series of anomalous signals had been detected originating from a nearby nebula. They appeared to be complex patterns, unlike anything the crew had ever encountered. Curiosity and apprehension rippled through the team as they examined the readings. Alina's eyes narrowed as she focused on the data. The signals were not random, they seemed intentional, almost like a message. She turned to her communications officer, who was already working to decode the patterns. Their fingers flew across the keyboard as they attempted to make sense of the transmission. "We should investigate this further, Captain," the officer suggested, their voice filled with urgency. "If this is a sign of intelligent life, we could be making first contact with another civilization." The room buzzed with excitement and tension at the prospect of meeting beings from beyond the stars. But Alina hesitated. The warnings echoed in her mind. The risks of deep space were vast and unpredictable. She weighed the options in her mind. This could lead to great discoveries, but it could also lead to danger. Still, the pull of exploration was irresistible. With a deep breath, Alina made her decision. All right, set a course for the nebula. She commanded the crew, sprang into action, adjusting their trajectory and preparing the ship for what lay ahead. The Titan surged forward, cutting through the dark expanse of space as hope and uncertainty mingled in the hearts of those aboard. As the Titan ship glided toward the nebula, a swirling mass of colors and gas illuminated the dark void. The crew remained focused on the mysterious signals pulsing through their systems. The atmosphere in the command center was electric with anticipation and tension as they awaited the communications officer's findings. The officer, a sharp-eyed technician named Jackson, worked diligently at his station, eyes darting across the screens filled with data waves of light and sound. He was determined to decode the message hidden within the alien signals. He knew the significance of their mission weighed heavily on his shoulders. Helena stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the displays. The colors shifted and morphed on the screens like an alien dance. She could feel her heart racing, each second bringing them closer to understanding the truth behind the enigmatic signals. After what felt like an eternity, Jackson finally looked up from his screens, his expression a mix of excitement and concern. "Captain, I have deciphered part of the message," he announced, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "It seems to be a warning directed at us. A warning, Elena repeated, feeling a chill run down her spine. What does it say? Jackson took a deep breath. The message is fragmented, but the essence is clear. It warns of an imminent threat from a faction that seeks to conquer the nearby systems. It emphasizes the importance of caution and suggests that they have already targeted other civilizations. Elena felt a wave of unease wash over her as she processed this information. If this faction was as dangerous as the message indicated, they could be heading toward Earth. Next, they had to act quickly. But how could they prepare for an unknown enemy? We need to reach out to the civilization that sent the signal, Jackson said fervently. They might have more information and could help us understand what we are dealing with. The crew listened intently, exchanging glances filled with determination. Elena nodded resolutely. You're right. We have to make contact. She turned to the navigation officer. We need to plot a course to the source of the signal. Prepare for sublight travel, Jackson. Continue working on the message and try to gather any details about this faction. As the crew set to work, the Titan accelerated toward the nebula. The vibrant clouds surrounding them began to pulse and shimmer, reflecting the ship's lights in a breathtaking display. The sight filled Elena with both awe and trepidation. Minutes turned into hours as they navigated the swirling gases. Jackson's efforts to decode the signal intensified, and just as Elena began to feel the weight of uncertainty, the officer's voice broke through the tension. Captain, I've managed to piece together more of the message. It appears the faction is known as the Valkyrie. They are highly aggressive and possess technology far beyond our own. Jackson said, his voice firm. They've already destroyed several colonies in their path. Elena's mind raced. The Valkyrie could be a formidable foe, and if they were targeting other civilizations, they would not hesitate to strike Earth. She felt the responsibility of protecting her crew and her homeworld pressing down on her. What do we do if we encounter them? She asked, her voice steady, though her heart pounded with fear. We can't go in unprepared. We'll have to negotiate, Jackson replied. If we can establish communication and learn their intentions, we might find a way to deter them from attacking. Elena nodded determinedly. They would face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and resourcefulness. The Titan ship had been built for exploration, and now it was time to put its true purpose to the test. They would not only seek to understand the unknown, but also protect their home in the process. As the Titan approached the heart of the nebula, the atmosphere inside the ship was thick with tension. The crew exchanged glances filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. They were about to enter a realm of uncertainty where they might confront the Valkyrie, the very faction that posed a threat to their existence. Elena stood at the command console, her heart pounding as the ship's sensors picked up an approaching fleet. A swarm of sleek Valkyrie ships cut through the nebula like predators, hunting their prey. Each vessel bristled with weapons designed for destruction. The sight sent a shiver down her spine. Jackson's voice broke through the silence. Captain, the Valkyrie fleet has detected us. They are maneuvering into attack formation. Elena's mind raced. She knew they needed to establish contact and fast, but the threat of an attack loomed overhead. If they were to survive, they had to be both bold and strategic. She took a deep breath and made a decision. Raise shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers. She commanded. The crew sprang into action as the ship's shields activated a shimmering barrier enveloping the Titan as they prepared for the worst. In that moment, Elena activated the ship's communication systems. Jackson, prepare a message of peace and introduce ourselves as representatives of humanity. She instructed, her voice steadied despite the chaos surrounding them. As the Titan weaved through the nebula's dense gases, the Valkyrie ships closed in their sleek hulls, gleaming ominously against the vibrant backdrop of the nebula. The tension was palpable as the crew braced for impact. Captain, the Valkyrie are initiating communication, Jackson said, his fingers dancing over the controls. On screen an image materialized, showing a towering figure clad in dark armor, their features sharp and menacing. The alien leader's voice echoed through the ship low and commanding, human vessel, you are trespassing in our territory. The Valkyrie do not take kindly to intruders. Elena's heart raced. She knew this was a critical moment. She had to project confidence, even in the face of danger. She stepped forward, addressing the alien leader. "We come in peace," she said, her voice firm. "We are explorers seeking to establish friendly relations, and to learn about your civilization. We have no intention of causing harm." The Valkyrie leader studied her for a moment, their expression unreadable. The surrounding ships shifted slightly, readying their weapons, as if they were poised to strike at any moment, but Elena held her ground. "Our signal warned you of an impending threat," the leader replied, their voice a low rumble. "We protect what is ours, and we do not trust outsiders. The fleet is prepared to eliminate any perceived danger." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. The Valkyrie ships began to close in, weapons primed for attack. Elena felt a surge of adrenaline as she realized the negotiations were on the brink of collapse. "Hold your fire," Elena shouted to her crew. "We need to show them we are not their enemy." She turned back to the Valkyrie leader, desperate to regain control of the situation. "We can help you if you will allow us to assist." The leader narrowed their eyes, considering her words, as the tension in the air reached a breaking point around them. The Valkyrie ships maintained their aggressive stance, but something shifted in the leader's demeanor. "We are not easily swayed by promises, human," the leader said, their voice sharp. "But there is merit in your words. We have been under siege by the forces of the Zephyr, the very enemy you have been warned of." Elena seized the opportunity. If they could unite against a common foe, perhaps there was hope for peace. She took a step forward, urging the crew to hold their breaths as she made her case. "Then let us join forces against the Zephyr together. We can protect our worlds and ensure the survival of our civilizations," she said, her voice steady with resolve as the fate of both species hung in the balance. The atmosphere aboard the Titan was charged with uncertainty as the Valkyrie leader considered Elena's proposition. The tension was palpable. The crew exchanged anxious glances, unsure of what the outcome would be but desperate for a resolution. After what felt like an eternity, the Valkyrie leader finally spoke. "There is strength in numbers, human. If you are sincere in your intentions, we may entertain this alliance, but know that trust must be earned." Elena nodded fervently, understanding the gravity of their situation. She glanced at Jackson, who was already working to establish a secure communication link between the Titan and the Valkyrie fleet. "We will do whatever it takes," she promised. The Valkyrie leader gestured to their fleet to stand down. The ships shifted slightly, their weapons retracting, but the threat of danger still loomed as the leaders of both species began to forge an unlikely partnership. In the command center, Elena gathered her senior officers, including Jackson and the Valkyrie leader, who introduced himself as Commander Kale. Together, they formed a strategy to combat the Zephyr forces that threatened both their civilizations. "We have detected a Zephyr fleet advancing toward your homeworld. The Titan must relay this intelligence to Earth, so we can prepare our defenses," Kale stated, his voice deep and resonant. "We must act swiftly or risk losing everything." Elena's heart raced. She realized the stakes had escalated dramatically. The fate of not only their mission, but also their planets depended on the outcome of this alliance. She turned to Jackson. "We need to contact Earth immediately." As Jackson began relaying their situation to command, Elena took a moment to assess their new ally. Commander Kale stood tall with an air of authority, his features sharp and serious, but there was an undeniable strength in his presence. She sensed a shared resolve that transcended their differences. "What do you know about the Zephyr, Kale?" she asked, her curiosity piqued by their history with this enemy. The Valkyrie leader's gaze darkened. "The Zephyr are merciless conquerors. They have no regard for life. They destroy everything in their path. We have been engaged in a war for decades. We have technology that may give us an edge, but they possess numbers and ruthlessness. If we are to succeed, we must strike hard and fast." Elena felt the weight of his words. The Valkyrie had endured unimaginable hardships, and now they stood on the brink of a new battle. She understood the importance of their alliance, not just for survival, but for mutual understanding. "Our ship is equipped with advanced scanning technology. We can identify weaknesses in their formation." Jackson interjected. The crew rallied around the idea, eager to contribute to the mission. "We need to gather as much intelligence as possible," Kale agreed, his eyes glinting with determination. "Let us combine our resources and strategies to form a formidable front against the Zephyr." Elena felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was more than just a mission, it was a turning point in the relationship between humanity and the Valkyrie. They were no longer isolated civilizations, but allies standing together against a common foe. With their plans set in motion, the Titan and the Valkyrie fleet maneuvered through the nebula, utilizing its cover to approach the Zephyr fleet unnoticed. As they drew closer, Elena could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Gathering her crew, Elena spoke with conviction. "This is not just about us or our worlds. This is a fight for all who seek to live in peace. We stand together today as one united front against those who threaten our very existence." The crew nodded in agreement, their resolve solidifying as they prepared for the upcoming battle. They were no longer just explorers, they had become warriors united in purpose as they ventured deeper into the unknown, ready to confront the danger that lay ahead. As the Titan and the Valkyrie fleet moved stealthily through the nebula, Elena gathered her crew in the main briefing room to discuss their strategy against the Zephyr forces. While the immediate threat loomed large, she knew that forging a true alliance would require more than just tactical cooperation. It would demand understanding and respect between their two vastly different cultures. The room was filled with tension as Elena stood before her team, and Kel, the Valkyrie commander, his imposing presence filled the space, a reminder of the stakes at hand. She cleared her throat to draw their attention. "We may be allies in this fight, but we must also learn from each other," she began. "Our cultures are different, and we need to bridge that gap if we are to stand united against the Zephyr." Kale nodded, but his expression remained serious. "Our people have been at war for so long, we have little experience in diplomacy. The Valkyrie have always been warriors." Jackson interjected, "We can help each other with that. Let's start by sharing our histories and values. We need to find common ground to build on." Elena agreed that was a good idea, but as they began sharing their stories, it became clear just how deep the cultural divides ran. The Valkyrie spoke of honor and strength, of sacrifice for the greater good. Their tales were filled with valor and loss, while the humans recounted stories of exploration, curiosity, and resilience. As the discussions unfolded, it became apparent that the Valkyrie viewed emotions as a weakness, while humans embraced them as a source of strength. Misunderstandings began to surface. A Valkyrie officer expressed disdain for human compassion, suggesting it was a liability in battle. Kale quickly intervened, but Elena could see the hurt in her crew's eyes. "We may not share the same values, but that doesn't make either of us wrong," she said, her voice steady. "We can learn from each other and adapt to the strengths of our alliance." One of her officers, a skilled engineer named Maya, stepped forward. "We can find ways to integrate our technologies. For example, if the Valkyrie's weaponry is designed for aggression, we can enhance it with our own defensive systems." Kale considered her words, his gaze thoughtful. "Perhaps we can incorporate human strategies that rely on deception and intelligence rather than brute force," he replied, slowly acknowledging the wisdom in her suggestion. As the conversation continued, both sides began to open up, sharing ideas and concepts they had never considered before. Elena felt a sense of hope emerging from the cultural clash, but the underlying tension remained. The ship's alarms blared suddenly, disrupting the meeting as Jackson's voice rang out. "Captain, the Zephyr fleet is approaching faster than anticipated. They are not far from our current position." Elena felt her heart race. The discussions had been valuable, but time was running out. She turned to Kale. "We need to finalize our strategy. Now we have to combine our strengths and prepare for battle." With urgency, the crew shifted their focus, assembling a plan that utilized both human ingenuity and Valkyrie firepower. They quickly strategized on how to approach the Zephyr forces, blending tactics from both cultures to create a united front. Helena suggested a feigned retreat to draw the Zephyr into a trap, while Jackson proposed using the Titan's advanced sensors to create holographic decoys that would confuse the enemy and give them the element of surprise. Kale listened intently, nodding in agreement as they crafted a strategy that melded their unique approaches. It was a testament to the potential of their alliance and a glimpse of what could be achieved when differences were set aside. As the Titan and the Valkyrie ships prepared for battle, Elena felt a surge of determination. This was not just about survival anymore. It was about forging a new path for both civilizations together. They could create something greater than the sum of their parts. And as the enemy drew near, the time for action was at hand. They would face the Zephyr united and resolute, ready to fight for their futures. As the Titan and the Valkyrie fleet positioned themselves among the swirling gases of the nebula, tension hung thick in the air. The crew moved with purpose. The alliance had transformed from an uncertain partnership into a solidified force prepared to confront the impending threat of the Zephyr. Elena stood on the command deck, her gaze fixed on the tactical display where the incoming Zephyr fleet appeared like a swarm of dark locusts against the backdrop of stars. Their ships bristled with weapons ready for destruction. She could feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. The fate of two civilizations rested in her hands. Jackson leaned over the console, analyzing the data. "Captain, we've detected their fleet formation. They are heavily armed, but their defenses are weakest on the flanks. If we can exploit that, we might have a chance." Cale nodded, his sharp features betraying no hint of fear. "Our forces will take the center, while your ship distracts them from the sides. We will drive them into your trap." Elena felt a sense of camaraderie forming with Cale. The two leaders were beginning to trust each other. As they collaborated on the strategy together, they would prove that their alliance was more than a necessity. It was a powerful union that could change the course of their histories. As the countdown to battle approached, the Titan's crew busied themselves with final preparations. Weapons were charged and shields were raised. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Each crew member knew the importance of the moment. They were no longer just human explorers. They were warriors fighting for survival. Elena made her way through the ship, checking on her crew, offering words of encouragement. She found Maya in the engineering bay, ensuring the ship's systems were primed for combat. Maya looked up, her eyes bright with determination. "We've integrated the Valkyrie technology into our systems. The weapons targeting algorithms are faster than ever," she reported, her excitement infectious. "We're ready for whatever comes next." Elena smiled, feeling a swell of pride in her team. This was not just a battle for survival, but a chance to show the galaxy the strength of unity. As she returned to the command deck, she took a moment to steady her nerves and focus on the task ahead. The first wave of Zephyr ships came into view, their dark silhouettes cutting through the nebula like predators, searching for prey. Elena took a deep breath. The moment had arrived. They would show the Zephyr the power of their alliance. "Now," she commanded, her voice steady, "engage the enemy." The Titan surged forward, flanked by the Valkyrie ships. As they charged into battle, the air was filled with the roar of engines and the crackle of energy weapons firing. Elena felt a surge of adrenaline as the crew moved with precision, executing their battle plans. Jackson's voice rang out over the comms. "Captain, the Zephyr are firing. We need to maneuver now." Elena steered the ship deftly, dodging incoming fire. The Titan danced through the chaos, while the Valkyrie ships moved in formation surrounding the enemy. The sight of their unified front filled her with determination. As the battle raged, the Zephyr began to realize they were outmatched. Their ships were powerful, but they were not prepared for the combined tactics of humanity. And the Valkyrie Elena watched as the Titan unleashed its weaponry, targeting the Zephyr's weak flanks just as they had planned. A Zephyr ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The crew erupted in cheers, but Elena remained focused, knowing that this was only the beginning. The enemy would not give up easily. Cal's voice boomed through the comms. "Our forces are advancing, but we must keep the pressure on the enemy to not relent." With renewed vigor, the Titan and the Valkyrie fleet pressed the attack, weaving through explosions and fire. They fought not just for their lives, but for the future of their worlds. Each victory was a testament to their alliance and a declaration that they would no longer face the darkness alone. As the battle intensified, Elena felt a sense of purpose solidifying within her. This was not merely a clash of ships, it was a fight for hope and survival together. They would face the unknown and emerge stronger than before, united against a common enemy ready to change the course of history. The clash of titans echoed through the nebula as the Titan and the Valkyrie fleet engaged the Zephyr forces. The scene was chaotic yet exhilarating. Bright bursts of energy lit up the darkness as weapons fired and ships Maneuvered through the swirling gases of the nebula, Elena gripped the command console, her heart racing with each explosion that rocked the ship. "Captain, we've identified the Zephyr command ship," Jackson shouted over the cacophony, his fingers flying across the controls. "It's heavily armored, but if we can take it down, we can destabilize their entire fleet." Elena's mind raced. She knew this was the key to victory, but the Zephyr command ship was surrounded by a ring of smaller vessels. Their defenses would be formidable. She turned to Kale, determination shining in her eyes. "If we can draw the smaller ships away, we can hit the command ship with everything we've got." Kale nodded, signaling to his officers to prepare a diversionary tactic together. They strategized on how to create a rift in the Zephyr formation. If they could separate the command ship from its escorts, they might stand a chance. Elena relayed the plan to her crew. "We'll initiate a feigned retreat and draw them toward the inner nebula. The Valkyrie ships will engage them, while we target the command ship from the rear." The crew sprang into action, executing the plan with precision. The Titan spun around, drawing the attention of the Zephyr vessels as they chased after the seemingly vulnerable ship, while the Valkyrie took advantage of the opportunity and closed in on the Zephyr's flanks. As the smaller ships engaged Cal's forces, Elena felt a mix of anxiety and exhilaration. She knew they had to maintain the illusion of vulnerability to ensure their plan succeeded, but the risk was immense. Jackson monitored the sensors. "Captain, the Zephyr command ship is breaking formation. They're moving to engage us directly. Now's our chance," he said, his voice rising with excitement. Elena seized the moment. "Fire at will," she commanded, unleashing the Titan's full arsenal. As they approached the command ship, its heavy armor glinted menacingly, but the Titan's weapons hammered against it, creating cracks in its defenses. Explosions erupted around them as the Valkyrie continued to engage the smaller Zephyr ships, creating chaos and confusion. Elena focused on the command ship, determined to bring it down before it could retaliate. Cal's voice resonated through the comms. "We need to penetrate their shields. Aim for their power core. It will destabilize the entire ship." Elena nodded, her heart racing, as they lined up their targeting systems. With a deep breath, she pressed the firing controls. Energy surged through the ship as they released a concentrated blast aimed directly at the command ship's core. The shot struck true. The ship shuddered violently as its shields collapsed, and the power core erupted in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave rippled through space, sending debris flying. The Zephyr ships around it faltered as their command structure disintegrated. Elena could hardly believe their luck. The tide of battle began to turn in their favor. The remaining Zephyr ships hesitated, confused and disoriented by the sudden loss of their command ship. The Valkyrie seized the moment, pressing their advantage and engaging with renewed ferocity. Elena watched as the crew cheered around her, their spirits lifted by the turning tide of battle. She felt a rush of triumph, but knew the fight was far from over. The Zephyr were tenacious and would not yield easily. "Press the attack," she commanded, her voice firm. "We cannot let them regroup. If we show weakness, they will strike back harder than before." The Titan surged forward once more. The crew rallied their efforts, combining the ingenuity of humanity with the raw power of Valkyrie technology. They fought as one united force, each victory bolstering their resolve. As the last remnants of the Zephyr fleet began to falter and retreat, Elena felt a wave of relief wash over her, but it was accompanied by the weight of what they had achieved today. They had not only defended their worlds, but also forged a powerful alliance in the face of adversity. With the echoes of battle still ringing in her ears, Elena knew that the true test lay ahead. They had not only survived the fight, but had opened the door to a future of cooperation and understanding together. They would explore the stars not as enemies, but as allies ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the vastness of space. As the last remnants of the Zephyr fleet retreated into the depths of space, the Titan and the Valkyrie ships surveyed the aftermath of the battle. The nebula, which had once been a shroud of chaos, now began to clear, revealing the stars twinkling in the distance, a beautiful backdrop to the newfound alliance. Elena stood on the command deck, her heart swelled with pride. As she looked at her crew, they had faced the unknown and emerged victorious together. They had forged a bond that transcended their differences and had proved that unity was their greatest strength. Jackson turned to her, a grin lighting up his face. "Captain, we did it. The Zephyr are on the run, and our plan worked better than we could have imagined." Elena nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over her, but she knew this was just the beginning. They had to ensure their victory translated into lasting peace. The Valkyrie needed to be involved in the rebuilding efforts, and they had to continue fostering their alliance. She turned to Kale, who stood beside her surveying the starry expanse, his expression serious yet reflective. "It is a great victory, but we cannot let our guard down," Kale warned. "The Zephyr may regroup and return with vengeance." "You're right," Elena replied. "The work we've done here must extend beyond this battle. We need to secure communications with other civilizations and establish a broader coalition to protect our worlds from future threats." Kale considered her words, nodding slowly. "Our people have been fighting for so long. It will take time to adapt to this new approach, but I believe we can do it together. We can forge alliances with those who share our values." As they discussed their plans, the crew began to celebrate their victory. The command deck buzzed with excitement. Laughter echoed through the halls as they shared stories of the battle. Their camaraderie was palpable, and it filled Elena with hope for the future. But amidst the celebration, Elena knew they had to remain vigilant. She turned her focus back to the tactical displays, analyzing the remnants of the Zephyr fleet. They needed to gather intelligence on their next moves and determine if there were other factions that could pose a threat. Jackson worked diligently to collect data. "Captain, we've intercepted some communications from the fleeing Zephyr ships. It appears they are regrouping at a remote location. We should investigate to ensure they don't pose a threat in the future." Elena exchanged glances with Kel. The prospect of pursuing the Zephyr was fraught with danger, but if they were to protect their worlds, it was a necessary step. "Let's set a course," she commanded. The Titan and the Valkyrie fleet would not rest until they were sure the threat had been neutralized. As they prepared to move out, Elena took a moment to reflect on the journey that had led them here. They had begun as strangers facing an uncertain future, but now they stood united, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The Titan surged forward, guided by newfound purpose. The crew worked seamlessly alongside their Valkyrie counterparts. The merging of cultures had begun to bear fruit as they developed strategies and tactics that combined their strengths. As they approached the Zephyr's new position, Elena felt a sense of determination wash over her. They were no longer just a ship and its crew. They were a united force of two civilizations working toward a common goal. With each passing moment, they drew closer to the enemy's location. The stars shimmered in the distance, a reminder of the vast possibilities that awaited them together. They would explore the cosmos not as isolated factions, but as allies ready to face the future with hope, courage, and the knowledge that they were stronger together. As the Titan entered the new sector of space, Elena couldn't help but smile. This was just the beginning, the dawn of new relations, and a future filled with endless potential. They would rise to meet the challenges ahead and build a legacy that would echo through the stars for generations to come.